Welcome to Shit Chat with Em and Matt.
Where we talk bodybuilding, business, and babies.
And what episode are we up to today?
We are episode 7.
Look at us go. Woohoo!
So some of the highlights from today, we're going to have some updates on Em and Matt, who is us, obviously. Cardio and why it's important during all phases. What separates us from other coaches. Being a sellout versus an actual coach. Our thoughts on the second child. How bodybuilding affects fertility, and some more topics. So let's jump into it.
Ooh.
Updates on Matt.
Updates on me. I am just cruising along at the moment in my build phase, hitting, I'm going to say PBs because it is. I'm getting progression every week with my training. I am the strongest I've ever been at the moment, so I'm really happy with my gym performance. I have recently reduced my training sessions from a 5-day split down to a 4-day split, which does fuck with my head a little bit because not one, and Emily, you're the same, not one to sit around a lot, you know, when I'm like, fuck, I probably could be doing more. But understanding the recovery aspect of it and watching Emily do it now successfully for probably 12 months, where she's only done a 4-day split and seeing really good progress, I'm feeling good.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like
I'm still sore, but having that extra day a week to help maximize recovery is, and even the little things like getting on top of work, you know, because that's probably the biggest thing sometimes. We've got renovation stress, you know, which does impact muscle growth big time. So being able to have a little bit more time to get on top of my shit. And
this is probably a good coaching thing in terms of how someone trains or the frequency of someone training is really down to the individual and what they're going to be trying to achieve. So Matt has the same amount of volume that he was doing in the 5 days, but they've just moved that into the 4 days. So it's not like he's taking a hit with volume or anything. No. It's just their bigger sessions now 4 days a week. And that's kind of how we've programmed a lot of our women's building programs moving forward, because we have a lot of people in the same positions like us that are working, families.
It's just a more realistic approach, you know, with people that have a lot of responsibilities outside of just their health and fitness goals, or for us, bodybuilding.
Exactly.
So I'm finding it really good. I'm currently keeping it real, raw and real with you guys. Raw dogging this one. I have an infection in my upper outer quad from pinning there. Now, I work with my doctor, as you all know. It's testosterone from my doctor, and he recommended maybe changing some of your shots up to a subcutaneous shot. I usually do intramuscular, never had an issue. And I've tried it for the last month, and it's just not been that great. And this is pharma grade test as well. And last night I was in all sorts. I was like sick, fever. I was like, fuck, I don't think the body's going to fight this off. And Emily's like, right, I'm booking you into the doctor. I sweated all last night. I felt so sick in bed. And I have a strong antibiotic for what it is. So I will not be doing subcutaneous shots anymore. Fuck that. It's a small amount. So when you do subcutaneous shots as well, you're not doing a large volume. It's literally like 0.4 mil of the test. And it just does not go well with me. And I'm going to say this. Yes, I swab. I'm very hygienic around that. I've been bodybuilding for 8 years. And in that 8 years, I can count on one hand, I've had 3 bad shots, you know, and most bodybuilders have a lot more than that. So I'm grateful that I don't, what's the word? I don't get this that often, but it's given me grief today. What I find though,
that it is always in conjunction with you being stressed or sick or something, and then you do the shot, and then your body's like, I told you I couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's more so it's just the subcutaneous shots.
Yeah, you've done this before, and I said, let's not do that again, but you're like, oh, I'm going to give it a go. See if it's different this time. Yeah. Anyway.
How'd that go for me?
Okay. So my reverse update. Probably the last time I was talking, I was saying that I was struggling quite a bit, and I can say that it's been a lot better this last 2 weeks. I haven't been as food focused. I've now put back on, I think I'm back to 66, which is around 9 kilos from my lowest, which is 6 kilos from my stage weight. Yeah. So it seems like a lot, but I'm probably back at my settling point now, where I'll happily stay until we push food back up again. But I am about to start my next push phase, which will be around 14 to 16 weeks long. And that will happen when I get back from New Zealand. So we like to line them up with a time frame when we don't have too many things going on. But we do have like a Bali trip halfway through that. So that's not ideal, but coach knows about it.
That's all right. You program in that, like literally tell the coach what's going on so they can pre-plan that ahead and then try and tie that in with like a deload.
Something like
ideally.
That. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I have grown in this last 6-week phase, which Matt doesn't think is possible, but I definitely think I have.
Grow on your fat stores.
They're definitely stronger in the gym, like on all of my lifts. I've been progressing, pretty big progressions each week. But obviously you were always going to progress from like peak week load
being
and
very
volume
depleted,
and
low calories, low
to now
carbohydrates.
having higher calories. I'm only on 2,400, which seems to be good for me at the moment. It allows me to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of like, if I go over 1 or 2 days on the weekends, it's not the end of the world. But I am being a lot more tighter within my calories over the last couple of weeks because I did get too much flexibility.
I think you should touch on that as well. When she says go over, going over on the weekends is like 100, 200 calories.
It's not like
there's a big
600 or
difference when you
700.
go on 500 or 600 over.
Yeah.
You're not going to get away with that.
Yeah, no. You could, and essentially, like, why does it matter? Well, you accumulate fat stores too much. It shortens your off season because obviously, when we are building, we will put on body fat. But if it gets to a point when you have too much body fat, that's going to impact the way that the build goes and how sensitive you are and health markers and all those types of things. So we want to stay in good nick during a build phase, understanding you will put on body weight, and that differs between enhanced and natural clients as well. But yeah, our big conversations this last week had been around, and I don't know why we were both feeling really shitty about the next 12 months, but we both were.
We're being stuck in a predicament of late. And I am very realistic of my expectations of bodybuilding are beyond this point in terms of what I can achieve. And I've dedicated the last 8 years to it, and I'm really happy with what I've achieved, set up a business. I love bodybuilding, always will be, but going overseas for myself in America, and even all the Europeans, they're just, at the New York Pro, they're just so big.
Yeah.
It's another level. So for me to go over, I'm like, a big goal would be like, hey, let's be realistic, maybe crack the top 10. You pick a smaller show and I do really well over the next 12 months, may get a top 5 depending on who shows up.
Yeah.
I like to think my shape would carry me pretty far. But it's like, what is that achieving me? There's a lot bodybuilding over the next 12 to 18 months has taken away from me. My time, the business, my daughter, Luna's now 3. She's pushing on 4 next year, where she's going to want to start doing more activities in terms of sport. And I want to give her every opportunity that my parents gave my brother and my sister. We played every sport under the sun. So I do want to be that parent that's giving her the option to choose and see what she's naturally good at.
The time and the energy.
It's time and the energy, yeah. It's like, pounding the food that I've got to do, making sure that, but let's be honest, I've got to prioritize bodybuilding at this level. It takes a lot out of me. I get to the weekend, especially in a build phase where you're putting food away and you're absolutely busting your ass in the gym,
you can't
trying
really
to get
be
progression.
running around
I haven't got the energy. I'm fucked by the weekend. Like the idea of going and doing being active on the weekend, like I'm wrecked. I'm dragging my ass around, especially when you're up over 124 kilos. Like there ain't me. Like I'm not that mobile, and it's a lot of effort required to move that weight. So coming back to it, it's like I said to Em, I'm like, something I've been thinking about for a while. I've done all my health checks recently, and I'm, after 8 years doing what I'm doing, I've been very, I'd like to think, calculated in our approach with it. I have not been reckless in bodybuilding at all. It's always been a health focus. My coach is the best coaches you can work with, especially Dean McKillop. Shout out to him. And the specialist's like, mate, you're in a really good position at the moment with your heart, which is one of the biggest concerns as a big bodybuilder. Your heart and your kidneys, and both of them are good. He's like, but another 2 years, 3 years at this level, at this size, you may not be in that position. So I'm like, fuck, I've done really well. Let's be honest, I've gotten away with it a little bit for over the last 8 years. Not a lot of bodybuilders. I've got mates who've got worse health outcomes than me that are done, not even bodybuilders. Like they just love the bodybuilding lifestyle and take drugs, but they aren't competitive.
So basically, is pushing for the next 12 to 18 months worth the potential side effects or risks that bodybuilding incurs to get a possible top 10 place?
Top 5 at the very best,
And that's like in the difference between like national level bodybuilding and going over an international is huge, and I don't think people realize that. Like, you know, you're placing first and winning pro shows here, but when you go overseas, you're nowhere. You're probably like 2 or 3 years off cracking that top 10 and 20, 30 kilos mass.
Yeah, at least 10 to 15. Maybe not 20.
I said fat mass, and you know, like in the off season, they're probably hitting what, like one.
Yeah, it depends. Like you can't go. You can't say, oh, Matt needs to be 130 kilos to be competitive. Like it depends on your shape and structure. It's not the biggest bodybuilder wins. So it's like you have to be dense enough and have the muscularity.
But they are much bigger.
They are much denser. You know? So there's a big step. And I was grabbing him and being like, hey, you've done really well. You've had a fucking awesome year. Look at the goals that you've achieved. Went over to the New York Pro as a fresh pro, you know, and placing really high for a first ever show at a big show. And I'm like, if we step back and zoom out and detach our ego from it all, I'm like, are you going to look back on this in 5 years' time going, oh, that was cool, but hey, look at what it cost me. Look at what it cost me in terms of my health. And for Emily, it's going to be like, and not just them, like males as well, fertility. It's like we do plan to want to have another child. So, and then I think, Em, what did you experience backstage at the New York Pro?
The biggest thing for me, and I think the biggest thing for all females, is the trade-off that you make in terms of your femininity as you get into the pro ranks. And one of the things that stood out was the deepening of voices of the women backstage. The fact that they were 30, early 30s, but they looked about 40. The aging on them, their facial features in terms of really strong jawlines, hair loss was a really big thing as well. So it was like, is that the kind of outcome that I want for chasing this goal? And I guess they've all said yes to that. Like you don't walk into bodybuilding and you have to make informed decisions right around like, this is what I want. So coming back from that, I was like, fuck, I've done so well. Yes, let's do 12 months. And then it kind of hit me. It's like, what am I trading off in terms of doing another 12 months? Like, where will I be in terms of the side effects at that stage? And I think that's really worth thinking about.
You experienced a little bit of side effects that, you know, you were willing to accept, but it's like, add another 12 months on that.
Where is it going to be?
18, where's it going to be?
And I think that's probably the scariest thing is like, you don't really know. Like you could get a lot, you could get zero. But it made me question a lot of the cycle relation of like the dosing and stuff moving into this next phase, which I think is smart instead of just being like, let's blast. Yeah. It's more so like,
not that you've ever been like that.
Never. But I think a lot of people are, and they're not looking at, you know, that is the outcome.
They're not thinking 2 to 5 years down the track. They're thinking, 3 to 5 years down the track. They're thinking 12 to 18 to 2 years. Going, I'll do what it takes.
And I guess a lot of people don't think about this when they think of bodybuilding. They're probably not thinking about all of the potential negative side effects that come with, especially females, but males probably don't have as many like really negative other than health. Yeah, but females is more physical than anything.
Duration for guys than anything, going a long period of time, high exposure to drugs.
But anyway, that has been our thought process for the last, and I think it's healthy to have these conversations.
We've questioned each other, we've listed out the pros and cons, or Emily listed out the pros and cons. And the other big one is like Luna is just she's 3 at the moment. And we don't want to have too big of an age gap between women. Like what kills me at the moment is my brother's got 2 kids, Em's sister's got 2 kids, both her sisters have 2 kids. And then we go to the beach, we go to the park, and Luna just loves the other kids and friends. And the first person to run up to the other group, and I was like, oh man, I just don't want to have this huge gap between, if we're lucky enough and we're in a position.
But what decision have we made?
Yeah. I don't even know. We're still...
No, we'll do the 12 months, and then that will lead us into, like the idea obviously will be to... be mindful about the usage of PEDs in this next phase for me in particular.
We already had that discussion.
We've already had that discussion with Luke, and then squeeze the most out of that we can, see where we're looking end of next, or start of next year essentially, and then still compete mid next year, essentially hopefully qualify for Olympia, then do Olympia. And if I don't qualify for Olympia, so be it. That will be the end of the career at that stage. So November next year will be the end of it all.
Say that.
But I don't.
Say that now.
One thing is like you can always and you will. I think you'll always be like, okay, well no, let's do another 6 months. Let's do another 6 months. But I think you need to have a really clear end goal of we've done well. We've got what we wanted out of it. let's end on a high point.
Yeah, and I think I've had multiple friends and bodybuilding friends in particular go, all them years, like you've got the potential to do all right coming from Australia. Like, don't you want to go over and do a pro show and see, like, live that out? And I'm like, yeah, like, and I'm like, I'm also happy if I had to hang the boots up right now, I'd be like, you know what? And they're like, but you'll never know that regret. And I'm like, yeah, but if I do know and I do all right in the next 12 or 18 months, then it's going to be even harder for me to go, oh, I've done pretty well. Maybe I can do a bit better in the next, and that continues, and then that's there. So
I feel like you always need
much muchness sometimes.
Need an end date.
Sometimes it's better the devil you know.
You use that,
I love that saying.
So wrong all the time. I don't even think it's better the devil you know is like when you have like
sometimes it's better not to know. Sometimes it's better not to know. That's what I'm trying to say.
You're too funny. All right, so yeah, that was, I guess, we were talking about the real trade-off for pro athletes and what it takes to be good, especially for you. And really, I think what I wanted you to highlight was that people don't know that when you get into pro athlete area, it is like how much food can you put away and how much drugs can you handle.
Well, it's individual specific. I don't eat anywhere near as much food as other guys do.
Yeah.
But I do believe, and I see this now, and it's quite evident, the drug usage gets more and more. You know, in order to progress more and more, you have to at that level. And even genetics side, yes, you can be a hyper responder if you want to use them terms, but even the big guys, the elite up the top, are still running big cycles. You do not get that big without pushing the drugs. And the other side of it, you guys all think I'm talking about compounds. I'm talking growth hormone as well. It's been open communication with other pros that they're running 8 to 10 IU growth hormones. Fucking horrendous, you know. One, being able to afford that over this side. Then the potential side effects that come with that is like, you need to use thyroid medication. You're looking at your blood glucose levels. What else? Blood pressure, you know, the effect of that on top of the test and MAST and Primo that you might be running, depending on what compounds you're using.
And then if you're running it through, obviously, a doctor, which is how people obviously travel with it and stuff, with it being legal.
Not everyone does that.
You would be looking at it costing more. So, like, how much would it cost to go through, like, the doctor per month of, like...
It's cost me a fortune to go through the doctor and do what we do. That's the other side of it.
Yeah.
A lot of guys won't do that. And then with him being on board, if my levels are outside the ranges he doesn't like to see, which, let's be real, it is at times, he won't continue to do it. So I have to work in conjunction with his parameters and his guidelines. So it makes it difficult, but...
worth doing because you can travel and not have to...
Yeah, that's right. Whenever I travel anywhere, it's all legal and everything's scripted in-house. So you got to do it. But yeah, look, that was a big thing. I was pretty blown away. Like, I knew there's high-level drug usage, and a lot of the time overseas, you're just like, oh yeah, is it true? Hear these rumors. And then, you know, the more that I talk to other pros, and Dean McKillop works with all the other top-level coaches. He knows a lot of the athletes over there, and he's like, man, you don't even touch the sides with drug usage compared to what they are doing over there. And I'm like, fuck me. I said to Jordan, our videographer, it's not even you're not pinning once a week to get that total anabolic load. You're pinning every day. Watts, you're sore, your muscle's sore, risk of infection pops up, you know, so...
We're not saying this to scare people out of bodybuilding, but more so highlight the reality of what it takes to do what we do at this level and be good at it. Because I think a lot of people get into it as a hobby or fun, or and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna take some PDs, but don't realize that, like, you need to be so on point with everything, and then you have to be looking at having, you know, pinning Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and not just doing it at the end of the week or forgetting, you know, every 2 days, and because you're putting a lot at risk for a sport, right?
Yeah, so it's a lot, you know. And like I said, I'm going to come back to this again. I fucking love bodybuilding. I really do. I love the process.
But I think,
I love what
in the last 6 months, you've been a bit like not over it.
But it's because it's the reality of what is happening.
Yeah.
And I was probably naive to think that happens, you know. Like I said, you hear rumors. I'm like, oh yeah, but you know, like I said, I can take less drugs than my friends, and I get a better response. And then I'm like, well, the genetic elite are even way better than me, so they probably don't even take it as much as what everyone says, because they respond so good to it. But then, you know, you get into that level, you're talking, you're in and around it, you hear what is, and I'll be honest, in Australia, other than us and a few other friends, no one talks about, they're not open. Everyone sort of sits in their little groups and, oh, I don't take that, and I'm like, bullshit, you know. Over in America, they don't care. They'll tell you straight up what they're taking. UK, even more open about it. So Australia's like tries to like, oh, I'm natty. Almost like trying to claim that. And like we all do the same shit, but just be honest about it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that was enough bodybuilding talk.
Yeah.
And I guess I wanted to, like, tie this one up in a bow and say, like, we're not trying to tell people not to do it. I think it's just worth highlighting what actually happens in bodybuilding, what it takes to be a pro and do well on that stage. Because I think there are a lot of naive people walking into bodybuilding thinking that I'm going to just do as well as I can do natty and things like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like
it's division dependent as well. You know, I'm talking from an open bodybuilder's perspective.
Yeah.
Classic is different again, but then I can tell you, classic boys, if anyone listens to this overseas, they're running way more than I do. They run a fair bit. So,
but
yes,
it also, like Matt said, it's
bigger.
individual as well. There may be people that respond well off a tiny touch, and then there may be people that, you know, need quite a lot more. And it is individual, and like then it goes into female categories. Obviously, in a bikini, you probably shouldn't see a lot of people taking PEDs. I think there are a lot of.
Story altogether,
I think there are a lot of, and should be a lot of natural bikini girls because it's not extremely difficult to get that amount of muscle mass, and or get conditioning.
Yeah, men's physique bikini.
Yeah,
the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so, and then like you're a fuckhead.
I know.
And then obviously wellness is a completely different thing. There are some girls, especially in the pro ranks of wellness, that are taking the amount of drugs that a WPD or bodybuilding woman is taking. So like, you just have to figure out what are you willing to do for this sport? Where do you see yourself, and is it worth it? And I think at the end of this 12 months, it's no longer worth it for me to continue pushing because I'm not going to be Fran Selly, and I'm totally understanding it. But I also don't want to push drugs for another 2 to 3 years to see what I could achieve. It's just not worth the trade-off in terms of having a second child, the risks of losing femininity, but yeah, and my actual goals for life. That is it.
All right. So at least that gives everyone a bit of an understanding of what we've
been dealing with
and have encountered, or been more understanding of what's going on overseas.
Business. All right. So lately I've been seeing, and it irks me, guys. It irks me.
It irks? Is that a word?
Yeah, it is.
Irks.
It irks me.
The icks?
It gives me the icks. When, like, the question was, being a sellout, or the statement was, being a sellout versus an actual coach. And something I've been seeing a lot of...
What does that mean?
Is like, sellouts to me is people that are just putting content up for clickbait. It's not necessarily true, it just gets people's attention. And then they have some like mediocre kind of context behind it that, again, may not be true or not. And it's just like, comment, coaching, to get my free ebook. And it's all about revenue, selling products, making money versus actually making a difference.
Yeah, I do understand, devil's advocate here though, I do understand setting up funnels, and that's how it works. But I think, continue with what you're saying. I agree with what you are saying.
But the way to actually make really good money and be a good, and like expand and develop and grow a business is to just be an actually good coach and allow your coaching and referrals and all of those things to drive your sales and your revenue. And I know that we've been caught up in this, especially when we worked with particular marketing companies and stuff, that they wanted us to say things that, you know, were quite clickbaity and weren't us, and it felt really out of, hate that word, but alignment.
We stopped it each and every time.
Stopped it each and every time. But it was a good like highlight for us to be like, okay, cool. We were going down the path of looking at numbers too much rather than looking at, are we doing a good job? Are we servicing our clients well? Are we getting feedback from them and then implementing that feedback to just grow our business from within?
Absolutely. And I think, like Em said, it was something we've experienced where we've grown our coaching team, and Emily and I are buying back our time in the business away from coaching so we can actually grow the business, work on the business. And it's important with business to see growth. Obviously, you want to see growth. Yeah. You want to see the business doing better, you know, new clients coming on. But you can get so caught up and focused on that numbers side of things that, like Emily just said, and this is the biggest advice for all you out there, is focus on what is most important. The product that you're selling. Make it so fucking good. Make your coaching so good. The results, the clients, they talk to everyone about it. And that's where we're like, hang on a second, we're worrying about content. how many clicks that's getting, you know, what we need to say to get more people, like create more value, which again, all is important. But I'm like, look, if we just make sure our coaches, because Emily and I coach our coaches, you know, we make sure it's the best. We make sure we're getting that feedback from the clients. Like, what don't they like? You know, sometimes you don't want to hear that as a business owner, but it's so fucking important to give the people that are using your product or in there some say, this could be better. And it's like, okay, we need to listen to our community and make this better.
Because you're going to make the most money off someone that has been referred. They're also going to pay more and stay longer than someone that you have like clickbaited in, essentially. And we've learnt that the hard way through, like, you know, doing a lot of outreach or DMs and things like that, getting people that were like sort of like on the edge in. They don't commit, they're not ready, they're shitty clients. But someone that has been referred in by another client is always going to be like, I'm here to just do the work. This girl said that you're good.
I've seen Susie's results. Yeah. She can't speak highly enough. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So
big
like,
difference.
But I think it's also like a learned thing, and you'll go through it. But I just hate seeing it, because there was one the other day, and I'm gonna say it, but like they're essentially saying not to do cardio, or, you know, how to achieve weight loss. No, say no to cardio for fat loss, and you're like, motherfucker, like, you don't obviously understand what we're trying to do here in terms of health optimization, just getting people moving.
I'm not sure if it was directly related to fat loss. I think it was just in cardio in general.
Yeah, it was like, don't do cardio or something like this. And I know, like, from when you're doing the whole marketing and sales thing, you know when something's just clickbait, and this person's just like, oh, how am I going to get people to look at me? And you're like, incorrect. But anyway, so guys, be cautious when looking at content, and look at it through a lens of, is this person actually trying to provide me value, or are they actually just trying to get me to look at them?
Are they playing the numbers game?
Are they playing the numbers game?
Will I get the attention as a client that is necessary for me to get the best results in education? I think that's the biggest one, because I can guarantee and that's something we work so hard with our business, each and every client with their health consult, our coaches sit down and work out what is the best approach for this individual. It's not going through an algorithm going 1,500 calories.
Yeah.
An hour of cardio
Bring them
a day,
through like macroactive or whatever
it's literally like, okay, here we've got Katie's just joined up. She's a nurse, does shift work, you know, maybe suffers PCOS or whatever other issues she has, and what she's experienced in the past. You know, some general history info that we need, so we can go, okay, what is going to work? I take all this into account before we create an approach.
And I think this ties perfectly into what separates us from other companies. And the biggest thing is, like, with the rise of AI and like automated systems and automated meal plans and automated training programs, they're great if that's all you can afford and you're paying like $10 a week or something, and that's all you want. It's just some automated stuff. But you're going to get a better result out of something that is more individualized to you, whether that be down to the training aspect or especially the nutrition and lifestyle aspect. And the thing that we do different is that we take the time to go through everyone's consult. We talk to the client, we match them with a approach that's going to suit them.
I do want to touch on that just quickly as well. As like, yes, we'll customize the approach as much as possible, but this is for everyone, when it comes to training, you don't need a specific tailored approach to your training. Like, every client does not, unless you are an advanced bodybuilder or just a bodybuilder in general.
Or you have rehab or something like that. Or
rehab, you're working around injury. That's going to be different. But a lot of people come on going, wait, I want a tailored program. It should be specialized
to me
and tailored to me. And like, no, you just need to get really good at these lifts. If we are trying to bring up a certain area, if it is girl, I'm like, hey, look, I want a bigger lower body. Yeah, there's going to be more volume, but not every exercise needs to be specific to you.
So we have like, I don't even know how many programs we would have in the back end of the app, like 30 or 40 programs, right? And they're all designed for a different kind of outcome. Lower body dominant, more of a figure approach, so balance build, a deficit program, a strength program, a 3-day program. So we have all these program templates that we use for our clients, and then we assign them to a client. What I usually do, and this differs between each coach because we understand and respect that each coach has a different way of slightly doing things, I will usually give that to a client and be like, at the end of the first week, you let me know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And 99% of the time, the client's like, that all feels good. Why? Because we've actually specifically designed these along with Eric, who does our programming, that they work for like 99% of people. There may be some people that like, oh, I don't have that equipment at my gym, but majority.
So we swap the exercise out the suit. You know, oh look, this exercise feels really wrong. I'm not sure. I'm like, okay, send us a video through. We want to see form. We break down the form technique, and then might be like, hey, you know what, that squat pattern doesn't suit you, your biomechanics. Let's move into a different variation. Yeah. So like that is different to completely really doing each program. Each program is so different from individual to individual, which isn't necessary.
Yeah. So I think I always think, I know what separates us is that the fact that we've been here, we have experience, we have knowledge, we have personal experience.
Our coaches continue their education. They don't just do a nutrition cert and come and work for us. It's one thing each year we make it a must do, is that we have to do another course, upskill. And our coaches like that. They enjoy that. We're not like, yes, we somewhat force it and we ask them to do it, but they are wanting to do that, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, we know that we're very different to people in the industry.
It's a hands-on approach that we love. You know, each time our premium clients check in, they see their coach, who they're talking to, you know, on a weekly basis to help move through the difficult times, whether obstacles that pop up, you know, mindset, troubleshooting. Yeah.
All right, next question. Oh, not a question. Should we touch on this one? Actually, yeah, I will. So I came across this problem probably a few weeks ago where I went through a stage where I showed quite a lot of vulnerability on social media, and I quickly realized why I don't do it. And it's because people, especially clients, or like, not usually clients, I'd never want them to think that I am not competent of something, because sometimes you see someone go through a bad time, like you're like, oh, I'm having a really bad time, emotional, or like I'm feeling like really low, and then you associate a little bit of incompetence with them at that stage. Subconsciously or consciously, you do it anyway. And essentially if a client came back and was like, you know, I feel like I'm looking after you, or I feel like I'm not checking in because I'm worried about you, kind of thing. And I was like, no. And it's sad that I can't really be truly vulnerable, especially on social media, for this reason. But I can also, as a human being, handle a lot more than normal people can. And that's just from experience and life experience. And one thing that I pride myself on is doing the work and doing the business regardless of how I feel, because that's essentially how we got here. If I was having bad weeks and bad days all the time and dropping the ball in terms of work, like that would be a totally different thing. But that is very rarely an occasion that happens with me.
But it's no different if you have a 9-to-5 job, which everyone has experienced, or most people do. Is like, if you've got shit going on at home, you still turn up to work and do your job.
Do your job.
Do you turn up to work and not do it? Or like, hey, I'm having a rough day, I'm not going to go work today. Like, I don't know, maybe people do that sometimes. I think
a lot of people do these days.
You turn up to work and you do your fucking job. Like, regardless of what's going on at home. You work that shit out when you get back home. Everyone's stressed, everyone has stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make you incompetent at your job.
So that was my little light bulb moment, was like, I can't really truly show vulnerability because of the fact that people associate it with incompetence, which kind of sucks. And I have to be really cautious of what I do share on social media. And we all, like, on social media, like, oh, I love when you're like honest and true and open and stuff. But then they don't, like, if you are, they're like, oh, you're a shit coach, you can't do your job properly. So it's just like being really super. I don't think
anyone's ever said that to you.
It's probably just me.
I think that's in your head. I don't think anyone's ever said that to us, but I would remember.
No, I
remember that. No, like, I do agree with that, though. People like, I love that you're real and honest, and we have a core community that do support us. We love you guys because you're probably listening to this. But we're like, fuck yeah, this is what we want to be about. But then you see who trends well on Instagram, and it's always the ones that are fake as fuck. And I'll call you out, motherfuckers. They're just shooting content in a rental that's not their place. They're taking photos in front of sports cars or even Mercedes that you do not drive, like flashing, like Jordan spoke about, this highlight reel. And people flock to that shit. People flock to these wankers who have money, that are arrogant, and people don't even want to talk to.
Let's put that in inverted, these little things.
I don't get that. I'm like, people know, like, they continue to follow that, and I'm just like, man, like, is that what you... But
it's the same with, like, you know, the girls that are like super fake and like got fake bums and face full of makeup, and not saying that's fake at all, but like put a lot of effort into the way that the world perceives them, but maybe they're actually just cockheads and they're like influencers, right? But then everyone's like, I hate those girls, they're so fake. But then they're like on their phone, like, I'm just going to
like, oh, babe, go, babe, you're the best.
I'm just going to comment a few things just in case that person sees me and likes me and wants to be friends.
Maybe will reply to me.
Yeah,
to my comment, getting a kick out. I don't get that. So it's probably like, I'll be honest, Emily knows this. I hate social media. I hate it with a passion. I hate the fact that I have to do it for my job. It's part of a requirement, and that's what Emily says.
Do you know one thing I'm going to say that I have used this to my advantage once upon a time? I was 23, 24. I was on the bones of my ass in terms of money. I was living here, and I got a loan to go overseas to go to Thailand. And that was my first trip to Thailand. And through people thinking, oh, she's doing so well, perceived success, I got like 30 clients off the back of that.
But you didn't do that for that reason.
But subconsciously, maybe I did. Again, I was a totally different person back then. I'm not the same person I was when I was 25. But like, I got this loan to go over Thailand to flash this lifestyle. And then all these people were like, she must be doing great. I'll join her as a coach. And that's like how I got a heap of clients. And that's what I associated with for a very long time. Like, if I travel, I get more clients because people see me as successful and therefore they want to be on my team. Obviously now I am older and much more mature. I don't do those types of things, but I know people do. They'll be like, going out to day clubs in Bali and taking photos and doing all these things to show a lifestyle that is actually not their lifestyle. And then getting clients on the back of that because they're like, oh my God, that person's so successful and cool and great. So I think sometimes we need to be wary of, are we doing things for people just to see that we're doing things, which is a really big thing to highlight, because we've all been in that position sometimes. When booking an accommodation for holidays, like, are you thinking solely, this is going to be really great for me and I love this? Or are you going, this would be great for content?
Yeah, they probably do that. So it's something I don't know. It doesn't really cost them.
Have you never thought about that?
No.
I do constantly.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes a good frame of mind is like, are we doing this for ourselves or are we doing this for what people would see that we're doing? And I think that's probably more prevalent for people in their 20s because they care more about what people think.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So we now know what type of person Emily is.
Just being honest, guys. All right. Babies, we already talked about that one.
Touched on our beautiful baby.
Shit's good.
We touched on fertility for women, bodybuilding, and how that works. And even men.
Oh, fertility. Yeah, I don't think people realize the impacts that bodybuilding does naturally and enhanced does on fertility, especially for women. I have a lot of women that come out of natural comps and don't regain their period for like...
Menstrual cycle, let's be technical.
Menstrual cycle? For like 6 to 18 months, depending on how deep they were into a deficit and depending on...
Individual
individual as well. Some more resilient people will get their period back straight away. Some people, it will take quite a long time. And I don't think people will realize, again, how detrimental that can be on hormones if you're not going in with an informed decision of this may happen. So that's kind of decision that discussion that I have with all of my clients prior to going into a prep, not that I do a lot of it, is you could lose your menstrual cycle and this is the outcome and it could take for ages to get back. Are you willing to take that risk?
Good.
Yeah? And I had one more thing. Thoughts on whether it's bad for your kids to see you weighing food being extreme. Go.
Look, I think context is going to be, like for me, if this was us with our daughter, I'm going to explain to her, and at some point we will have to, because I think beyond my competitive years of bodybuilding, I will still, it's just ingrained, it's something I do.
Yeah.
I want to optimize my health as much as possible. And it's so normal, it's a normal thing that I do. So it would just be making that very apparent to her, like why I do that. And is it necessary for everyone? Is it necessary for her? So it's just a calculated approach that I'm using to give me a particular outcome that I want to, whether it's maintain or achieve.
I think there's a big difference between like weighing your food and like consistently saying, mum's feeling fat, mum's this, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm this, I need a diet. I think that's more...
Or I can't eat that.
Oh, I can't eat that,
that's going to make me fat, like associating...
Don't eat that bread or don't eat that carb or whatever it is, or consistently talking about weight loss and losing weight and being thinner, I think there's a big difference between that and what we do, because it's not like what we do isn't detrimental to our health from a food perspective. Like, it's achieving a result. In order to get lean, we have to monitor our food and manage our intake. But yeah, it's a discussion that we'll have.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a discussion with her, but she never really sees it. Like, she's usually just fucking around with the toys and stuff.
Yeah.
And I probably, you said you'll probably weigh your food, but I probably won't post-body video.
Yeah, it's different. So I probably will at home just because it's what I do. You know, it's not that I. It's
Matt puts a bowl on there, even though he doesn't weigh it, and puts the milk in, pretending to weigh.
I weigh my milk. This is something Emily's always. I do. You've had a go at me multiple times. Going,
do you put it in MyFitnessPal?
Yeah, all the time.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. Let's get my MyFitnessPal out and have a look if my almond milk is calculated. All of it's calculated. That's the type of person I am. So, and always have been.
I'm just like a close enough as the
But I don't generally, and I don't take my scales out to breakfast or when I have meals out, unless I had to in a contest prep situation. Yeah,
because I asked this question because of the fact that that was one of the things that came up for a friend of mine. Was like, I don't want to track my food because I don't want to weigh my food around my kids because that's obsessive.
It's like, well, what's the difference of you smoking a cigarette, having some pot like a lot of people do? Kids aren't stupid; they see that. They know the difference in the smell.
Drinking
alcohol every weekend. You know, like this. You come at me, I'll come at you back with that shit. Right? It's far more detrimental to your health than what it is for us.
I think that mindset is probably more detrimental. Like, I can't do this because of this is going to be obsessive, when we know that there is no research out there to link tracking food or weighing food with eating disorders.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it causes it, but there's people with eating disorders or have that then try to do that, which maybe exacerbates the issue.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you would try and get on top of that before you started doing that.
Yeah, so no, we don't think there is an issue with weighing food in front of kids. I think there needs to be context, and it needs to be something that you talk about probably openly, and more so look at what language are you using around weight loss and yourself, because that's going to be more damaging than seeing that you put a plate on a bloody scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope that you got something out of that.
It's a long one.
That was a long one.
It's a good one, though. I've been wanting to touch on the bodybuilding side of things, so that's where our mind has been at with it all.
Like, comment, subscribe. I think that's what you do for YouTube, but
no, you can subscribe to the podcast.
Subscribe. Can you leave comments? No.
You can share it. Share it on if you enjoy what we do.
Share it on your stories.
Or give us some feedback.
All right. Thanks, guys.